everyone, and welcome to my live Q&A celebrating the release of A Deed of Dreadful Note. Yay! And the crowd goes wild. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you join in a little bit later, go ahead and run ahead and move up to where we're at that point. And you can always go back and catch up with what you missed. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm very, very excited. Today was the launch of a book that has been a passion project for me for 4 years now, over 4 years. I wrote the first draft of A Deed of Dreadful Note 4 years ago in 2019, and that was after doing a whole bunch of research leading up to the writing of the first draft. And so this has been a long time coming. So I'm very excited that it is now out there. It is available in all formats. It is available in Kindle ebook, audiobook, wherever audiobooks are sold, and in print format. And if you have not picked up a signed paperback copy from me yet, today is the last day. You can order it through my website at patricia-meredith.com. And if you head there, you will find a discounted deal to order the print copy signed by me. So that is the best way to support me right now. You will eventually be able to get it through Amazon and other places too. But I would love to send you a signed, personalized copy from me. So tonight I was planning on doing an unboxing, but unfortunately, due to circumstances outside of my control, the box is not here yet. So I do not have new books to show you all. I do have my ARC copy, which is this one. So it's not exactly what you will be receiving. You'll be receiving a better cover. I'm brightening the cover and fixing some layout things that I didn't really care for in the original version that I had. But it is all there. It is an actual book, and I can actually hold it in my hands. So it is pretty cool. So I thought I would try to emulate my cover this evening. And so I've got my red hat that my daughter wonderfully donated to tonight. And then I've got my normal red jacket and everything. Hi, Anita. Hi. Andrew is my husband, my wonderful husband. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. So I guess I will start by reading. I'm going to read the back of the book so you know kind of what you're getting yourselves into. This is what this book is all about. So 15 years before Sir Arthur Conan Doyle published A Study in Scarlet, Anna Katharine Green began writing The Leavenworth Case, inspiring the creation of detectives like Sherlock, Poirot, and Wimsey, as well as almost every device and convention we now recognize as standard in detective mystery fiction. When her father's client is found murdered, Anna takes up the call to prove innocent the young girl accused of the murder. The investigation inspires many of the events, characters, and descriptions that would later be published in her debut novel, which is The Leavenworth Case. A love letter to mystery and writing itself, A Deed of Dreadful Note is an homage and reintroduction to an author who was the Agatha Christie of her time, but a forgotten female today. This book is a fictionalized account of how Anna Katharine Green's first novel may have come to be. And this is book one in a new series for me. Those of you who've been following me for a little while, you know that my first series is the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries, and there are 3 books. It's okay, Anita. And there are 3 books in that series out so far. I am working on the next 3, but I'll talk about that another time. Today, I want to focus on my new book. This is the first book in a series that I hope to do featuring Anna Katharine Green as a lead detective. So an author, detective, and then as what I've decided to do is she's not only solving mysteries as an amateur detective, but she is also being inspired to write the mysteries that she would go on to publish. So her first book, The Leavenworth Case, was published she started writing it in 1872, and it was published in 1878. So 6 years later. So one of the things that really intrigued me was why would it take her 6 years to finally publish her first book? I mean, like I just said, this book has been 4 years in coming for mine, but I thought it'd be fun to see if maybe, she had to solve a mystery that inspired then the writing of The Leavenworth Leavenworth Case. So basically, in some ways, this is almost a rewriting of the Leavenworth Case. It's an homage to the Leavenworth Case. So if you, almost everybody who finishes reading this immediately goes to me and says, okay, I've got to go out and I've got to read the Leavenworth Case now, the original version. And that is my goal with this book. My goal is that you will read this and be reintroduced to this incredible forgotten female of history and go rediscover her work. She has so much out there. There's so much to share. She's got 36 books, I believe it is, plus 2 published works, collections of poetry. She's got a couple plays. They did a play of her debut novel, The Leavenworth Case. So she's, she's no like little, it's not like she just wrote one book and was a one-hit wonder. She was really the Agatha Christie of her day, long before Agatha Christie came along. Well, then Agatha Christie discovered her and was inspired by her. She was one of the people that, was big in the mystery genre. And so she read The Leavenworth Case and was inspired to get into writing mysteries herself, which is so cool that it's all tied together. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, when he came to America, wanted to meet Anna Katharine Green. And because he was so inspired by her. So what's fun is going back and reading The Leavenworth Case, her debut novel, and seeing how similar, or there are different things, there's differences, but there's a lot of similarities too between Sherlock Holmes and her original detective, Detective Gryce. Lots of things, the way that they write, the way that they speak, there's lots of similarities. And of course, deductive reasoning, which was not always used in mystery in the genre. So thank you, Anita, for the hat. Yes. I've got my hat pin in there and everything, so trying to keep it on. So I have been getting some amazing reviews. In fact, Anita, who's in the chat right now, I highly recommend you go check out her review, her ARC review of A Deed of Dreadful Note. She gave it 5 stars and she loved it. So I'm very, very appreciative of that. That was the first BookTube full review of A Deed of Dreadful Note. You can also go check out Amy at Amy Marie, and I'll make sure that I put all this in the show notes afterwards of all the channels that I mentioned. But Amy was the first to even mention my book. She did a whole, here are books that are releasing in May, and my book got mentioned. So I was very thankful for that. And then I've had several people reviewing it on Instagram. I got a bunch of ARC reviewers who just went out and immediately read it. That doesn't always happen when you put out a pitch for an ARC review. So I really appreciate that. And I'm hoping as people start finishing it that they'll leave more reviews on Amazon and on Goodreads, because then that will help other people discover the books as well. So thank you to those of you who have done so already. And we'll see what more pops up. What is jumping out to people? That's what I'm really interested to hear, is what is going to be jumping out to people when they pick up this book, because there's lots to unpack here. So I recently had my 100th video with my charming and wonderful husband, so you can go look up that. But I'm also this close to getting 100 subscribers. So I thought it would be fun that if you are here tonight and you go hit the subscribe button, whoever is the 100th subscriber is going to get a free audiobook from me of whichever book you would like. So if you already have A Deed of Dreadful Note, or if you'd rather start the other series, because that one has 3 in the series already, Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries, I can send you one of those. It will come to you as a Spotify link. And I'll be doing a giveaway for a free audiobook link every Saturday in June, along with my videos and on Instagram. So be sure to follow me over on Instagram and here. On Instagram, it's the same thing. It's at P Meredith Author. So I'm the same everywhere. I made it very, very simple. I was able to get in there and get my name out there with everything. So yeah, so thank you everybody for joining. We've got a couple of people over here. Alethea, hello. Thank you. You're such a fan. I love that you always pop in. Thank you. She's asking, should one read The Leavenworth Case before your book, or does it matter? It does not matter. It can go either way. I actually, on purpose, had several beta readers do it either way. So like I asked someone who had never read The Leavenworth Case, I said, will you please read The Leavenworth Case and then read my book and tell me, does it work, right? And then I had lots of other people who had never read The Leavenworth Case who read my book and then went out and read The Leavenworth Case and said, oh, okay, now I get it, right? Now I get all the references and things like that. And now I want to go back and reread your book. If you are not familiar with Victorian literature, I actually recommend that you start with my book. If you go to the discussion of the Leavenworth case that I did with my editor, Corin Faya, he and I had this great discussion. I think it ended up being like an hour and a half, 2 hours, of the Leavenworth case, which is the debut novel that Anna Katharine Green is writing in this book. So that's this one right here. You can find it. It's in the public domain. But if you would do me the great honor of going to my website, you can get the ebook for free from me, and then that includes a prologue, author introduction, where I tell you a lot more of the backstory and everything, and then it's a free copy of the Leavenworth case because it's out there. So and then eventually we will be releasing an audiobook version with my husband reading the Leavenworth case. He did an incredible job, and it's just so much fun to hear him reading this book that I have now read 6 times. I think I've read it way too many times. So if you want to go out and pick up a copy of the Leavenworth case, if you go to my website, patricia-meredith.com, and subscribe to my newsletter, then you will be able to pick up a free copy of it there. But you do not have to have read the Leavenworth case. In fact, most people have not read the Leavenworth case before they read my book. And my editor says that he likes this version better. So we'll see what you all think. It's definitely a modernized version of the original Leavenworth case. So if you're not familiar with Victorian Lit, I would recommend picking up my book first, because then you'll kind of know where it's going. But I promise I don't give away the ending. It is a different person. In this one, it is a different answer to the mystery, and lots of twists and turns that happen in this one that don't happen in the Leavenworth case, and vice versa. So, and I am now being joined by a fellow booktuber and good friend. Let me add you in here. This is Andrew Wizard. Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm a little late. I was giving the kids a bath.
Oh, that's okay. I'll excuse that. That's understandable. Good
So,
spring
let
weather.
let me see the cover.
Oh yeah. So Andrew very kindly was one of my betas as well as an ARC reader. So this is the ARC. I didn't get my box of books yet, so it's off. You'll see it's like off center, and it's not as bright as I wanted it to be. So I sent it back in, and I'm getting it reprinted. So hopefully my box of books will open and it'll be gorgeous. So
that's awesome.
There it is. So yeah.
It was an incredibly enjoyable experience to beta. Well, it was a stressful experience to beta that for you, but it was also an enjoyable experience. I don't beta often, mainly because I'm very critical when I'm being a beta. So I was very nervous about that kind of feedback.
No, but that's exactly what I needed, because I'd rather hear it before it goes live than afterwards. So
no, and it's fine. I thought it was curious that you switched POV structure halfway through, and then had to go back and edit it back, and exactly. I loved all those little details.
Yeah. So what Andrew's talking about is the original first draft of this was written in third person. And what happened was I wrote it 4 years ago, came back to it about a year ago, and then decided that the thing that really needed to fix it was to go first person. And so I had to go through the whole book and change it from third person to first person, and then restructure it and fix it. And Wizard caught a bunch of stuff to make it a little bit more, because it still sounded third person. And so I had to kind of bring that out a little bit more, make it more first person. But I think, I'm really glad that I switched it to first person. I feel like it made her more personal. So
I'm very excited for when you do decide to continue with the Anna Katharine Green Mysteries.
Yes.
I think that will be very enjoyable. I know you're focusing on Clock Tower, but
here and there. But I figured it was time to get another series going, so that way I could kind of bounce back and forth, because it's enjoyable to do that. So.
Well, as Andrew is always saying, sometimes you just got to take a break, work on another project, and kind of clear the mental junk, and then come back. And like I've seen him mention taking breaks from collation to go work on a super secret side project, and then he'll come back and he'll feel refreshed, and so maybe that's what this can be for you.
Exactly. The hardest thing is switching eras, because this is 1870s New York, and that's 1901 West,
What's 40 years?
I know. So it was amazing how much of a difference it was. like not just clothing, but just, I mean, thinking about like how close she is to the Civil War. It's only been 7 years, I think, since the end of the Civil War. And so she's still being impacted a little bit by that. Whereas by 1901, they've moved on to bigger, better things, and they're, you know, focusing on the Pan American Exposition, and, you know, just it's just funny thinking, you know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago for us is, you know, the 80s.
I wasn't alive.
That's so wrong. I know. Yeah.
I like to tease my wife because she was born on the 17th of December, 89.
Okay.
And so I call her my 80s woman.
Right. Exactly.
She was like a baby for like 12 days or like 13 exactly. math days. Math
right.
like 14 days. She had 2 weeks in the 80s. And I tease her constantly about it.
Yeah.
What made you fall in love with Anna Katharine Green?
Oh, I guess we have
not even my channel. I'm already interviewing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. By the way, Andrew and I will be doing a video on his channel in 2 weeks, sometime like that. Anyway, follow. You'll find out when. But yeah. So let's see. So what made me fall in love with Anna Katharine Green? She and I are very similar. We had a lot of similarities, and so the more I looked into her history and how her writing process, because thankfully she was writing at a time when and she was famous enough that they interviewed her a lot. And so there's all these great articles written by her or by interviewers, you know, talking to her about what is your writing process? How did you write your first book? Things like that. And so a lot of that I was able to just, you know, take and put straight into her mouth again. But a lot of it also, I was like, oh, I do the same thing. I write from the end, and just things like that. The way that she puzzles it together, and very character centric, and her descriptions are all about the rooms and how that makes you think of people. And there's certain things about how she writes mostly that I was just like, ooh, I write like that. Ooh, it'd be really fun to write a book about her writing her first book. But I want to do a mystery still because I love writing mysteries. That's my favorite aspect, is coming up with the puzzle behind it all.
You happen to be very good at it.
Well, thank you. That's one of those weird things where so I briefly thought about going back to school because I missed writing papers because I'm a nerd. And so I love the
not my thing, but you know, more power to you.
I was like, I love the research part of it. I love discovering new things, then piecing it all together. And then it just occurred to me that, you know, I love writing mystery, and that kind of, it uses that part of it. And then the history side of it is the research part of it as well. And so it all works together. And I grew up reading mystery. That's my favorite genre.
That's one of the things I love about your books is always like towards the end, or like at the very end, like of your audiobooks, you'll have a snippet of you speaking about like the newspapers and stuff like that you've pulled this information from to correlate all the dates and the events, like in Spokane. Yep.
Spokane, yeah.
Okay. I'll get it right one of these days. I'll cement it in there. And my best friend's wife is from Spokane, and I still don't get it right. Oh. And yeah, it's just I love those little details that are added into your books, because it shows that you did your research. And I can definitely tell that you did a lot of research for this one as well.
Yes, yes, I do a lot. And only
I've considered buying the Leavenworth Case 4 times now.
Oh yeah.
And then you were like, well, there might be a secret side project.
Right.
Maybe.
Yep. No, the ebook is available through my website, and then Andrew is recording the audiobook. So yeah. So if you want to hear it on audiobook, definitely get it that way. And now I have another guest too. Anita is here. Hello. Hey, I know I caught you eating. Sorry.
What are you sharing? What are you eating? Would you like to share? That's what I meant to say.
Ramen,
yeah.
Korean spicy ramen.
There you go. Yes. Do you add lots of added, you know, like different curry spices and things like that? Like we love to add peanut butter to ours. It gives it like a Thai spice to it.
It depends on my mood. Today I just kept it simple. I added cheese actually today.
Oh, cheese. I'm in the mood for
cheese.
I'm doing boba tea.
There you go.
Nice.
I just got plain tea. Yep. So
Yeah,
how
but
are
you
you
got the
tonight,
nicest cup.
Anika?
That's
Thank
not
you
fair.
so much for doing a review of my book so early. So.
I mean, it's a surprise actually. I picked it up the day you sent me. It's just I just finished a book. I was thinking I'm not in the mood for anything. What to read? And morning I received your email. Arc. Immediately I started it. Okay, let's see. Maybe
Oh,
this book will get me back. That focus actually, and I did not stop until I finished it.
oh, good. Oh, good. Excellent. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me my favorite character. I cannot stop thinking about that character. I cannot stop gushing about that character. And now I can't even mention that character because I don't want to give away that, okay, this
You can
person.
talk a little bit about him. Is it the detective, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So Detective
So,
Sokol is the main detective in this one, and basically he's inspired by Detective Grice, who's in the Leavenworth case, and so but then in my book I have it be vice versa. So so Sokol is inspired by the Grice, but in my book Grice is being written because she's being inspired by Sokol, and that's just because I read the Leavenworth case and I was like, I have to write Grice. He's so wonderful. So. I'm so glad you fell in love with him. He is one of a kind.
I liked a lot of
so
his quirks.
Yes.
yeah.
Where like he won't make eye contact. That was actually part of one of the POV things that I sent you.
Yes.
Was that like I felt like she should have had the internal monologue of why won't he meet my eyes before she has a conversation. Another thing, one of my favorite critiques is towards the end. I was like, you know what? I love this book. I don't think that her parents would have been that supportive, and you were like, well. Her parents actually were that supportive.
They actually were, right? Exactly. So I can't change that. So I'm sorry she didn't have terrible parents that weren't supportive.
Well, I mean, like, I didn't want her to have terrible parents, but like, I mean, I wish I had that supportive of a parent.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Andrew here. Actually, more so because that detective isn't healthy. I
Yeah.
mean, so her dad being supportive of her, being with that unhealthy man was a complete surprise to me.
Yes.
I mean, no parent is that supportive. That was beautiful, actually. I am totally in for that. At the same time, it is surprising.
And in that era,
yes,
mind blowing.
Yes. Yeah. And well, it'll be fun to do future books too to see what actually happens. I won't give too much away, but but what actually happens and who she ends up with and things like that in future books, because it actually does show up in her future mysteries. In which one is it? I think it's the third one. It's basically the relationship that's in the book is very much based on her actual relationship with the man she marries, and how her father did not approve of their relationship. And so it'll be fun to write that book eventually, because I want to do similar thing like I did with Adita Dreadful Note, where it's her writing her own book, so kind of retelling the story but in a different way, from the side. So, and just see how I can weave it all together and pull people in, because she's fascinating. So
it was funny because after I finished your book, I went to Barnes and Noble. This is one of the times I attempted to buy an Anna Katharine Green. They didn't have a single copy.
Yeah. No, you can't find her. Yeah. You can find her on like public domain ebooks, but it's.
I was shocked. Like, supposedly for somebody who was that prolific, to have not even a single book in the bookstore.
Yeah, because she was just.
They had Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, and endless Sherlock Holmes and endless Agatha Christie. And so it's just, there's so many other mystery authors out there that have been overshadowed. So
it's actually very difficult to even find her on Amazon.
Really? Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 different copies of the Leavenworth case.
Right.
But that's about it.
Exactly. Yeah, finding the other ones is much harder. Sometimes you can find That Affair Next Door, because that's the first Miss Butterworth case. And she's the spinster inspiration for Miss Marple, basically. But she's her spinster older woman detective, and she's so funny. And That Affair Next Door is the first one featuring her. So usually, like, this is the first time, or Leavenworth Case is the first time you see Grice, Miss Butterworth, but that's usually the only ones that you can find. It's a lot harder to find the other ones. So
I actually Go ahead, Ed.
Oh, my question was like, how much Anna Katharine Green have you been able to consume?
I have read 6 or 7 out of 36, so not a lot. Oh, plus her poetry. I've read her poetry. She's got 2 collections of poetry and a couple plays. I'm still looking for, they made the Leavenworth Case into a play, and I would love to find a copy of the original play. And I have a lead on possibly where I can find it, so that way eventually I can have a play within a play or something, in a future book, which would be really fun.
If only you had a candlestick taker who could go secure you that copy.
Well, what's fun is I'm also planning a Spokane book which will be about the theater in Spokane, and so I bet I'll be doing a lot of cross, research at that time. So when I get to that point,
You know what's funny? I didn't even know the word spinster meant until about like 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Seriously?
I had no clue. I just thought it was this antiquated word, which kind of is an antiquated word. But like, finally, I was like, okay, I keep seeing this in like historical fiction and fantasy. I need to just look up the definition.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's not a nice term. It's unfortunately that's just the general term for that age, and but yeah.
I actively avoided looking up about Leavenworth Case or even the author because I want to go in blindly. So I remember you talking about female detective. She wrote a female detective. So in this book, I wasn't sure she was going to change that or she was going to change it to me. I was like totally surprised. I mean, I enjoyed it so much because I didn't know anything. I was like, okay, is she going to keep that female detective or no? I was so good.
Yeah, and I bet, eventually she will. Well, I guess I shouldn't give that away, huh? So, but yes, exactly. I tried to twist it enough that you, if you don't know anything, as long as you don't go look up Wikipedia halfway through and find out, what her married name was and things like that, then hopefully it'll be all a surprise. So.
Oh, I straight up went to Wikipedia. Like, I was because whenever I'm reading something that's actually based on history, I start trying to dig into it to see like how close you nailed it or like things of that nature. Because I get curious about the event and the person that the book is about.
Yeah.
So I don't remember a whole lot about it from what I saw, but like it's just I don't know. What was that like a historical thing where the first draft was female, or is that your own?
No, that was my own take on it because I wanted to make a commentary on the fact that she will be one of the first to feature a female detective, if not the first. I haven't narrowed that down. I haven't guaranteed that yet, so I can't say that she was absolutely the first, but she's definitely one of the first, like within 3 years of writing, the first female detective. So so I wanted to kind of plant that seed in there for future references. So and then if this is the only book that people read, if they only pick at this one and then they're like, no, I'm gonna go try it, try Anna Katharine Green, and they're just not pulled in, at least they know something. I'm trying to get as much as possible in this first one, and hopefully hook people in enough to carry through. So.
Well, I'm excited to consume Andrew's narration of it because I haven't laid eyes or ears on the changes since the beta.
It'll be interesting. Well, so actually, I read this one.
Okay.
So the audiobook is narrated. Yeah, I'm the one reading this one because
you're narrating it.
It's me. Yeah, because this is so me. Like there's so many essences of me in this. So when Andrew and I talked about it, and it's first person female author. So I was just like, I'm just gonna read it. So he edited it for me. He did all the hard stuff, but I did the reading part. So. But then he is reading the Leavenworth Case, and he does a fantastic job. It'll be fun for you to hear it, both of you. Having read this, it'll be interesting to see what you remember from this. But if you then read the Leavenworth Case and you're like, oh wait, that quote was in that book, I've heard that before, because there's a lot of quotes from the Leavenworth Case that are in here, not just the parts where she's actually writing the book, but things that I had like Sokol say or her father say, because I thought, well, it's possible she heard somebody say this and then she put it into the mouth of one of her characters, because that happens to me all the time.
So have you started narrating already, or is it already done?
Oh yeah, no, it's out. Like the audiobook is out today. So our last edit for our books is always the audiobook. because then it gives
Nice.
us a chance to listen to it and read it and match that with the whisper sync thing with like Audible and stuff. It really matches up, and it's just a final proofread to hopefully catch all those very last things. So,
How
I'll
did you
listen
find
to
the
it
recording
again.
experience?
yeah, so yeah.
So is so-called direct inspiration of Detective Grice, or you took it from somewhere other works?
So yeah, so Sokol is very much inspired by Grice, but then he became his own thing. It's one of those, like, so often happens for me is I'll be inspired by somebody. Several characters in the Spokane series are they started being inspired by somebody I actually know, and then they just grow from there. And so Sokol was inspired by Grice, but then he became himself, I think, more because I took a step away from it, because I took that 4 years off. So it became my memory of who Grice was, how I interpreted Grice in the book, not necessarily how she wrote him. Because then listening to Andrew, I was doing the audio check for Andrew for the Leavenworth case, and reading it and going, oh, he's a little bit different than how I ended up writing Sokol. I like Sokol better because I love Sokol, but
I did
Grice
too.
is similar but different. So yeah.
Sokol's awesome.
I can relate to Anna more when she's with Sokol, actually.
Yeah.
The frustration she felt when he doesn't do eye contact. I used to get very frustrated when people don't give eye contact when I was young, actually. Now, I mean, I'm more understanding. I try to be more understanding,
Right.
but the way she felt when she was with Sokol, that was so me, actually.
Yeah. Well, and so a lot of when they're editing her book together, so like when he reads and he's offering critique for the first time, a lot of that is inspired by her own interviews that she has given about what it was like getting critique for the first time for her book, but also on my personal experience of it is very hard the very first time you hear critique with Butcher Baker. That was my very first one over there. There we go. Butcher Baker was the first one where I put it out there. I had betas coming back to me. It was so hard to hear anybody say anything against it. It was, no, this is perfect. It's exactly what I want it to be. And it changed so much after people read it, and it's even better, right? You know, it's absolutely worth it. But so a lot of the frustration that like Anna feels, like I had a couple betas who were surprised by her frustration. It kind of kicks in really quickly. And that's a lot inspired by me. I didn't handle my critiques very well the first time. I got better. So we'll see her grow in that over the course of the series. So.
I remember sending you critique and just sitting there biting my nails. Like, did I go too far?
Nope.
And you started messaging Andrew. I'm like, I'm so sorry if I was mean.
No. And if I don't answer immediately, I know you're like worried, like, oh my gosh, I offended her. She's not gonna like me. No.
I'm like messaging Tori. I'm just like, I don't know how to do this beta thing, and I'm the worst.
No, because I need both kind of beta readers too, right? I need the cheerleaders who are going to tell me it's perfect the way it is and just publish it. But I also need the ones who are going to dig and be like, no, you can make this better. It needs to be here, and it's right here, right? So you just need to do this much more and bring it up to here. And I would much rather hear that before it's published. So.
It was definitely a harrowing experience for Andrew of the Wizardly Reads.
Oh, well, thank you for doing it. I really appreciate it.
No, I really enjoyed the book, because once I got sucked into the book,
yeah.
I pretty much stopped offering critique. Like after my last critique, you were like, do you have anything else? I was like, no, I'm good.
Right. Yeah. Which that's always good too, to get like with this book especially. I got a lot of critiques for the first like 50 pages. But then people would they'd kind of drift off, and it's like, oh, good, okay. So first 50 pages, I just got to tighten, and that way it's just you pull through all the way. Apparently, it worked because Anitha sat down and read it in one sitting. So,
like one sitting?
Not exactly one sitting, but I did not turn away to other book, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. It's been a long time since I once sat a book.
Yeah.
I don't even want to sit in novellas.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm
very lazy.
But no, you're
generally with ebooks, when I'm reading it, I always have physical book, so that I can focus on that. But this one, until I finish this, I completely focused on this.
Excellent. Oh, I'm
Nice.
so glad.
It's compelling. It's fast paced. There's a good mystery. There's some like red herrings. There's side mysteries going on. There's just like you're like, oh, there's something going on over here. Well, let's go look at that. Does that tie back into what's going on over here?
Right.
Maybe.
And the way it was, the mystery part, the writing part, romance completely meshed together, that was actually perfect.
Oh, good.
I
Good.
actually had to. I don't remember who I asked. It might have been you, Patricia. Like, I was like, why is everybody gathered in the house to discuss this whether or not a murder has occurred? And I was like, what is going on?
Yes, the inquest.
Inquest.
Yeah, that threw me. So the first time I ever encountered that was in the Leavenworth case. The Leavenworth case opens with he's been shot, and he goes to the house. The lawyer Everett Raymond goes to the house, and Grice opens the door, and the surgeon's already there. They've already pulled in the jury. The jury's upstairs looking at the body. He's gonna come downstairs, and they start doing the inquest right there. And I was like, is that really how I had the exact same reaction, Andrew? Like, there's no way that's actually how they used to do it. Yes, it is. And it wasn't until I was reading I think a Dorothy L. Sayers book, and she does a similar thing. And so even in Britain, that's how the police system worked. Was originally, the body's there, everybody gets to look at it, everybody can talk about it. If they can figure out who did it right then and there, then that saves them a whole bunch of time, instead of waiting months for the actual trial. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
Actually, that scene is where I struggled to not to Google, because I was like, okay, does this happen like this? I wanted to Google so bad. I was like, okay, Betisha is a good researcher. Let's trust her. She might have already researched. Let's trust her and move forward.
Yeah.
It was a struggle.
I was talking to Nico. I was like, do you know, is this like a thing? And he was just like, I mean, I think it was a thing. And like, I was like, just grab random people off the street. Like, hey, you free? Yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
You want to come see a dead body? Do you think this guy killed himself? What?
Yeah. And like looking at the body and everything, it's like, wow, okay. Yeah. So actually, Andrew, I added a paragraph to the back of the book, to the historical notes, answering that question, because I was like, okay, I know he's not going to be the only one who asks that. So. I almost put it in the front, but I was like, no, I'll just put it in the back. Because actually, I also know a lot of people, and I'm like this with historical fiction, where I'm reading it, and yeah, there's a point that I'll hit where I'm like, okay, but I want to know what's real. I want to know which part of this was made up and which part is real. And so then instead of doing Wikipedia, I try to avoid doing that, because then it gives too much away. But I'll at least go to the historical notes in the back of the book, because so many authors do that now. And it's always fun to read through those. And so I try to write my historical notes in a way that it won't give away the mystery, right? It'll give away a lot of the historical stuff. But like even the romance part of it, I don't give that away in the back of the book, because I know people who are going to flip to that first. So.
Well, one of the things that I think is really interesting about having the inquest is because normally in fiction or something like that, it's either A, you're at the trial, which we all can still kind of recognize what a trial is, even back in the 1800s, a trial judge, whatever,
Right.
powdered wigs if you're in England or something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
Or there's like a foot chase, like chasing down, like somebody's witnessed the murder, or they find the murderer fleeing, or it's like in the middle of a street, like Robert McCammon, Queens of Bedlam. There's murders in the streets, and so then like it's a bunch of people congregating around a dead body. But to actually get, and don't get me wrong, that's set in the 1700s, so that's before. But to actually get an inquest and see like the legal process was very interesting, and I thought a unique experience, because I think it's something that's been lost to general knowledge.
Exactly.
Actually, more than the inquest, what surprised me was Coroner leading that instead of the detective.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Sherlock Holmes novels and all, detectives run these things, but here Coroner took the lead. That I was very surprised at that.
Yes, yeah. Well, and in the Leavenworth case, Grice is more involved, because Grice is an actual detective. Like, he's still working for the police force in her book, so he's a professional. Whereas I decided to make Sokol, he's retired. So the amateur detective's just kind of working on the side. But the thing with the Leavenworth case is realizing when I looked it up and I started and I learned that the book was used by Yale University to teach law classes soon after publication because it was that accurate, especially in regards to the perils of circumstantial evidence, which is one of those things that we kind of take for granted. It's in every law show now, right? They all talk about, circumstantial evidence. So, but the whole book of the Leavenworth case is about that. But so that means that because her father was a lawyer, she had access to the entire process from beginning to end. And actually, like, I have notes saying that, she did sit in on inquests with her father and things like that. And so it's all very true and tied in. So it is interesting because it makes it the Leavenworth case is a very interesting window into how the legal system worked back then, because it is different than how it is now. We assume that it hasn't changed in 100 years, but it has. So yeah, it's fascinating.
So, for your future books, is this going to be the same pattern, solving the mystery and writing that mystery into the book?
That's what I'm thinking. Yes, at this point, that is my plan. Because I kind of like that. She wrote a book or two a year, so it'll be pretty easy to kind of keep that up. I'm trying to decide if I want to kind of skip over some of them, and kind of get to the meatier ones, the ones that really changed things. And that's probably what's going to happen. Is we'll jump. I want to do at least the first 3 books will be kind of her beginning romance with the man she ends up marrying. But then they get married and she has 3 kids. So then I can write about being a mom and trying to write at the same time because she's still publishing a book or 2 a year, even when she's got 3 kids at home in the 1890s.
Even when she's getting kicked in the kidneys.
Yes, exactly. It's crazy. So, yeah. And then it'll be interesting to get to those books where she's published and then Sherlock is published, right? And seeing, how does she react to that? Because we have letters that exist somewhere that, again, I think I have a lead on where they are, that I can actually find them, which is why I'm like, okay, yes, this is definitely a series now. But there's letters between her and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle talking about books and talking about writing, and other authors like that. I included the one like from Emerson and things like that in here, but later when she's famous, I don't know if Agatha Christie ever wrote to her. That's one I still need to figure out. I don't think so, because by then Anna Katharine Green dies in 1935, and so Agatha Christie is still like just starting out. But but Agatha Christie's another one who like overnight, she became famous. It was everybody read Agatha Christie within the first 10 years of her publications. So.
Why does your husband want to hurt me?
I don't know. I know what's going on over here. They're yelling at people. I did hear, though, that I have hit 100 subscribers. Yay! Thank you, everybody. So whoever the 100th was, I will hunt you down, and I'm going to give you a free audiobook. So you just let me know. If I don't find you, email me, and you can find my email.
If I unsubscribe and resubscribe.
There you go.
That was my plan
anyway, because we're reviewers.
Well, Anitha and I are both agents of chaos, so it doesn't surprise me we had the same plan.
We can both do it like alternatively, so then you have to give us both actually audiobook.
Yeah, you'll just see it toggle for the rest of the night.
Right. Like, fine, I'll give you an audiobook. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, we'll have to see what you guys think, because this is the first time I've done an audiobook. So we'll see what the reviews say and whether I end up getting it re-recorded by somebody else, because these ones are recorded by a professional,
They're so actress. Good, actually.
So
she's so good, Rebecca Cook. I love the audiobook.
But you do have audio work in your own existing audiobooks. You do give the historical.
That's true. That's right. Do. I forgot that. Yes.
Yeah. But because I remember the first time, it's normal practice that like the narrator continues doing it. It's very rare,
right?
That like the author will chime in, and then like all of a sudden I got to the end of Butcher Baker, and I was like, wait a minute, that's Patricia.
Yeah, I pinged her like early on. I had listened to the Thursday Murder Club, that series, which if you haven't read Thursday Murder Club, excellent series. And at the end of it, the author does an interview with whoever his PR person is or something like that. It's like someone who she has interviewed him at the end of each book. And basically it's a question and answer interview type thing instead of him just reading historical notes. But it's him talking about his writing process and stuff like that. And I thought, ooh, that's really cool. Why shouldn't I do that? I should do that. So I reached out to the audiobook narrator and I was like, is there any chance I can read the historical notes? And she was like, absolutely. That'd be amazing. So I was really happy that she let me do that. So that way, yeah.
I thought you did a great job with those.
Oh, thank you.
So
I actually had to ask her how to pronounce some things because she's more Spokanite than I am. And so there were some names in there like, the owner of the newspaper, which I always pronounce Cowles. It's Cowles, and it's Coles. And so there's just things like that she was like, oh, so actually that's how you pronounce it. Oh, okay. Well, like Carew, the Carew brothers. That's how I had always pronounced it in my head. It's a mispronunciation, but I figured it's Americans, so of course they would mispronounce it. So.
My family name actually changed when we came. So,
oh, yeah.
I've actually been to the gravesite of my great grandfather, and we actually had to put a new headstone on it to because the headstones are so disintegrated.
Oh my goodness!
So it's very cool, but yeah, no, Americans can't pronounce anything.
Well, like the Welsh spelling of Meredith, because it's a Welsh background, is Meredydd. So that's like my Gmail is Meredith spelled that way. I love that. And we thought about like changing our name at one point. We were like, oh, maybe like when we publish, right? We were like, well, when we publish, maybe that's how we'll spell our last names. That way it's unique. But we were like, no, it'll always be Meredith. Everyone will pronounce it wrong. And people have a hard enough time calling us Meredith. Like I get called Meredith all the time before I became an author because they thought that was my first name. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's cool. I think you should do it. Just like I said, it becomes a pain in the butt because I know L.L. McCrae went from L.L. McNeil, and it's been an absolute nightmare.
Yes, yeah.
For her because she had to get new intros for the audiobooks, new cover art with the corrected text, and just bleh.
Yeah.
Then she sells her own physical books. She buys them in bulk and distributes them herself, and she had to get through her backlog and.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So maybe not.
No, I think we'll stick with it.
Yeah.
I think it works.
How Andrew decided to do Andrew D. Meredith, and now it's like, okay, well, we're stuck with that. That's how it is. So.
Is his middle name Derek?
No, David.
Oh,
yep. Sorry, Andrew, you away.
Dan.
Yeah.
So. What time frame are we looking at for book 2 here?
Yes, thank you.
Andrew. In this series, I don't know. I cannot answer. I mean,
I can give you till about next week.
So I have to think about it. The biggest question is whether I can hunt down some research. There's some, like I said, there's some physical things that I have discovered. There's 2 libraries, one in just outside Philadelphia and one in Texas that have original letters and original things from her husband, a diary from when her whole family went to England and, did a whole travel thing. And so there's things like that I would love to find, original photographs of her that aren't the ones that you see all over the internet. And so I would love to hunt those down and because then that gives me fresh stuff to work with. And there's a lot there. But then just trying to decide how far forward I want to jump, because once I make that decision, that'll have to be the continuation through the rest of the series. So like if I do the next book that she wrote, which is A Strange Disappearance, it's really tight. And so I'm thinking I might kind of jump forward to give myself that ability to jump forward later in the series. Because I think that's probably what's going to end up happening is I'll skim over some of the books in the middle. I'm not planning on writing 36 books, right? If I wrote a book for every book that she wrote, it would be 36 books in the series. And that's a little much for me. So
if you jump forward to a different mystery, do you have to jump forward in her romance, personal life too?
Yes, a little bit. Yes. But that was also a long time thing. So
Oh,
The man she ended up marrying, they were courting on and off for, I think it's 6 or 7 years, because he is younger than her by so much, and because her father disapproved. And so he had to make a career change, and then basically once her father died, he went back to his original job. So yeah, and then they start a family, and so then he settles down, and yeah. But it's really interesting. I would love to eventually get to the point, like I'm definitely going to continue the series. It's how far do I jump forward, because like I would love to do a crossover like in 1901, have them like cross over at the Pan American Exposition, because her husband goes there he becomes a furniture designer, and he's there with a stand and everything. And my characters in the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries are also going to be at the Pan American Exposition in September of 1901. And so it'd be really fun to have like kind of a crossover, have them kind of wave it to each other across the aisle, so to speak. So.
I like this idea. That would be cool.
When I was younger, I read a lot of Clive Cussler.
Yes.
Nautical adventures and stuff like that. And there was a Dirk Pitt and Kurt Austin just like passing in the hallway, handshake, just kind of tip of the hat, and then like it goes on to it. So that could be something that's really cool.
Absolutely. Have you ever seen Maverick, the movie with Mel
Tom
Gibson
Cruise?
and
No.
yeah.
Why am I thinking of Top Gun?
No. Yeah, not Top Gun. This is it's Mel Gibson, and it's a Western. It's hilarious. It's a great comedy. And there's a crossover with him and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Andrew, help me. The guy who's in not you, Andrew. Sorry, Andrew.
Oh, okay.
No, we just watched it. The guy who was in with Mel Gibson across from him in Lethal Weapon.
Oh, Donnie Glover?
Yes, Donnie Glover. So Donnie Glover comes in and is robbing a bank, and Maverick, who's played by Mel Gibson, is also in the bank, and they cross over and they share the line that is from Lethal Weapon, which I won't repeat on here. But it's across. It's just this meta. It has nothing to do with the rest of the story, but it is this, nod to the Danny Glover. Thank you, Andrew. Other Andrew, everybody.
I called him Donnie, didn't I?
Yeah.
This is Danny Glover.
I love.
I switched. I swapped the O for an A, or the A for an O.
There you go. Well, like, did you catch I did have a nod in this one of my titles, my chapter titles.
I probably didn't catch it.
One of the chapter titles is called Sound Theory.
Oh,
which is a nod to Spokane. Yeah. Anita, I forget where you're at in the series.
Second book I need to read. I only read first one.
But
Anita,
Sound Theory is
I'm
in
going
the
to need you to stop reading whatever it is you're reading.
There it is.
Whatever. Like,
I was supposed to read second book last month, but then I got this arc. See, I was distracted by the same author.
It's my fault. Right, exactly. It's my fault. I'm sorry.
What you're supposed to do is you're not supposed to go outside. You're not supposed to socialize. You're not supposed to watch any live streams with Alan. You just read.
Poor Anita does so many buddy reads, though. Oh my goodness.
And I join every live stream, actually. I support everyone.
It is appreciated.
Oh my goodness.
You can watch mine. You just don't watch Alan's.
So, Patricia, did you have to get permission of the family or her estate to feature her as a character?
No, there are no surviving relatives anymore. Her last surviving, I think it was her niece, is the one who had all these papers, which are now available in the library, that I'm going to hunt down. Because the gal who wrote this one, so this is by Patricia D. Maida, similar but different. This is the only biography that I have discovered yet. That is written about Anna Katharine Green. And she wrote it in, I think it's 89. And she's a professor out in Virginia now. She might not be anymore. I had reached out to her 4 years ago. So Patricia Maida, if you are watching this, I reached out to you 4 years ago. You read my first draft of my book, and she wrote me this wonderful endorsement, loved it, everything. I cannot find her email. I can't find her contact information anymore. I had tracked her down, and now I can't find her anymore. So I don't know if she's still around. But I'm hoping that I can track her down. Because she was incredibly influential, and I couldn't have written this book without this, mostly because of her bibliography, right? So she has her list of her original sources, and I was like, and that's what I went to was all of her original sources, and then those became my original sources. And in here, I mean, I think she must have read all of Anna Katharine Green's works based on her commentary and stuff. But I had asked her, and she said, well, Mary Alice Rolfs is Mrs. Roland Rolfs, and she's the last. She was married to her to Anna's son was Roland. So it's her mother-in-law.
You just mentioned who the last name of the family.
The last member of the family, and so she left it all to a library, and so nobody exists anymore. And I'm trying to be, as tender and respectful as possible of her, because I love Anna Katharine Green, so she can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see what I uncover.
Left at all?
Huh?
There's no descendants left at all?
No descendants left at all.
That's so sad.
Yeah, all of her nephews and nieces passed away. They didn't live for very long, so so there's no surviving relatives. And then her, I'm trying to think, like her, because even her brothers had kids, but also they didn't. So a lot of them, several of them, including her son, died in the war, in World War II. So like World War I, it would have been, because she died in 1935, and he died before her, in World War I. But he was like a war hero. He airplanes. He was like one of the first pilots and things like that. So lots of tie-ins to real history and stuff. But so from what I have found, this is the end of the line. So I am picking it up and continuing it as long as I can. So
what would be challenging but fun to write? Maybe not fun, is if she released a book around the time her son died.
Yeah.
Like if she was writing that book, if you can find that book, read it, because like when Terry Pratchett was dying, we knew he was dying.
Yes.
A lot of his prose and tone is supposedly shifted to much more serious and darker themes. And so it would be kind of a good experiment to kind of get into her head. Make sure you're in a good place if you're going to write this.
Yeah.
But to kind of do that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping.
Maybe one of the last books.
It would be. It would be, because that would be, so she dies in 1935, but her last published work is not that much before then. It's like 1930 is her last book. So she definitely she published something during the war. I forget which one it is. Well, I have my timeline. So if you go to my website, I have a timeline of her life. There we go.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
When you run out of your source material, you can write your own theory of her life. It's fiction anyway.
Exactly. Well, that's the beauty of historical fiction is, it doesn't have to be exact. I can breathe some life into it. And that's what I've done, right? This is not exactly correct, right? I don't know if she solved a murder in order to be inspired to write the Leavenworth Case, but it totally could have happened. Well, and the inspiration for choosing to write it that way came from watching The Man Who Invented Christmas, which came out 5 or 6 years ago. And it's about Dickens writing A Christmas Carol. And it's wonderful. The guy, Matthew from Downton Abbey plays Dickens. And it's a really good Christmas movie. And it's a really good retelling of A Christmas Carol, because we all know that one inside and out. But because they were really able to play with lots of the references. And basically the idea is that he's being inspired to write A Christmas Carol based on things happening around him. And that he himself is Scrooge, that Dickens is Scrooge. And so it's really, really good. And basically he's being haunted by his past, present, and future. And so it's really good. And so that's what gave me the idea of writing this one kind of like that, of a mystery within a mystery, inspiring each other. So I'm looking at my timeline too. I'm trying to figure out when her last one was. I'll
let you find it.
Let's see. 19. I think 23 is her last one. 1923, Step on the Stairs. Because then Agatha Christie comes out. So it was very much a smooth transition. Because Agatha Christie's first one comes out in 1920, I think it is. That should
Yeah,
be
she wrote it in 23. That would be 5 years post-war.
Yes, exactly. And she actually, and that now I'm looking at it, she didn't write anything between, so 1917, she publishes The Mystery of the Hasty Arrow. And then she doesn't write another one until Step on the Stair in 23, or doesn't publish one until 23. So I bet, yeah. So during that is World War I. And he flew a Curtiss 182 T2 Wasp triplane.
A triplane?
A triplane, yeah.
I just saw a biplane flying over our area probably, what was that, last week?
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We've got a couple small airfields around my house.
Yeah.
And there's always just small planes. And I guess somebody owns a biplane around here.
Cool.
Nice, that's cool.
Very cool.
Because, like, I'm just driving and I'm just like, is that a biplane?
Yeah. See, we're right in between Fort Carson and whatever Fort Peterson, I think, is now Space Force. So there's like Air Force, Army, everybody is here in Colorado Springs, and so we constantly have things going overhead. So it can be fun, and it can also be like, oh my goodness, now I have to stand here and I can't say anything for a while until they go overhead. So.
Well, I am very happy that you wrote this story and that you decided to come back and revisit it and rework it.
Thank you.
Okay,
I think you're going to find a lot of new readers.
My main question: when will I get so-called novellas?
So novellas. I know. Was it you I was talking to that we were like, yeah, okay, that needs to happen. So,
yeah, definitely needs to happen.
That I should write Sokol novellas, some prequels.
Ooh, some prequels.
That are Sokol solving mysteries. So then, I would still want them to be kind of like historical fiction, like somehow inspired by history. So I have to figure out how to plug him into history. Maybe have him solving something. Let's see, when are the Pinkertons? Pinkertons are way before that. But
I mean, you could pull some newspapers and try and find, some murder.
Right, which is how Spokane
just
came to be.
Insert.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, and he's a little bit older than her, so he could have been. He would have been solving things.
The rheumatism.
Yes.
I meant to ask this earlier. The rheumatism of Sokol. Like, is that
That's a Grice
thing? A Grice?
Grice, yeah. So Detective Grice has rheumatism, and so it's very similar. In like the first time you see Sokol is at the inquest. The first time you see Grice, and then the second time you see Grice, second or third time, it might actually be the third time. But they go to his house, and he's got bandages on his hands and feet, and so same thing with Sokol and the rheumatism. So that was another thing though, where like I'm reading the book and I'm going, oh, they knew what rheumatism was. Like, I don't know. It just hadn't occurred to me that in 1870s they had that diagnosis, right? Sometimes they call it gout though. So I didn't realize that gout was sometimes considered the same thing, right? Because it's not, it's very different. But as far as, literature of that time,
gout always confuses me because I always feel like people say, like, I can't eat that thing, it makes my gout flare up. I'm like, is it a stomach issue? No, it's a joint issue. What?
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Because gout is what Henry VIII had too. After he fell off his horse and his whole body type changed. He had gout in his leg. So lots of books will talk about that. So my husband points out Sherlock has rheumatism. So in his later books, he discovers that he has rheumatism, and there's a whole letter. If you look at my videos in the playlist of Anna Katharine Green videos that I've done, the one where I was talking about Anna Katharine Green and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, I read the letter because she published it in the newspaper, but it's a private letter from Detective Gryce to Sherlock Holmes, and it's so funny. It's such a marketing ploy, but it's really funny, and it's she's name dropping her new book, and oh, I'm so sorry, Sherlock, that you have rheumatism, and but it's all from Gryce, so it's really funny because Gryce, this is he becomes a serial detective, so we used to know the number. It's like 10 or 12 mysteries with him as the lead detective. And even in the Miss Butterworth mysteries, at least in the first one, he's there. It's kind of about her trying to prove to Gryce that she is a good enough detective to work with him. So he continues on for a while. And there are aspects of him that also feel very Poirot-ish to me.
Now,
so we'll see what you guys think when you pick up Leavenworth Case and see.
is there any historical evidence that Green grew to dislike Gryce, like Poirot with Christie and
Good question.
Doyle with Sherlock?
I don't understand that because I frankly wouldn't write a detective I didn't love. But I've never understood. That always surprises me because I love Poirot and I love Sherlock. I don't understand why they wouldn't want them to.
I think they just got sick of them after you've written 30 books.
I guess. Yeah. I guess I'm not there yet, so we'll see.
Well,
I have not come across any articles or anything where she's like, I hate Gryce. No, nothing like that. So, yeah. But I wonder if she, got a little tired of him, and that's why she introduces Miss Butterworth. And then later she introduces Violet Strange, who is an inspiration for Nancy Drew. She's one of the first, young. She's a debutante who can only solve
lucky young ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Going out and solving mysteries.
Yep, and she's the only one who can get in there. And it's funny too because it's one series of short stories, and there's everything from ghosts to being the answer, so Nancy Drew, to it's very Scooby-Doo Nancy Drew. Like it's so funny. And it's 19. Oh, when did that one come out? The 1920s, because she's written very much as like a pre-flapper type character. So. I'd have to find that, but anyway, yeah. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much.
And thank you for writing this wonderful book. And more than Anna, thank you for giving me Sokol. I will cherish his character for a long time.
I definitely need to write more with him. I love him so much.
Yeah.
It's funny to fall in love with your own characters, but it's definitely happened. It's happened in the Spokane series too. I love the Carreau brothers. I love all of them, but I love the Carreau brothers.
I'm an Archie fanboy.
I love Archie. Yeah, he's definitely he's my main character as far as I'm concerned. He's the main character through all of it because he's the clock worker. So the clock.
Crazy Maids was everything I wanted.
Yes. Oh, good.
After reading 3 books.
Good.
Because I got to book 2 and I was like, this is wrong. I don't like this. You need to fix it, and then you'd already done it.
Yeah, you just got to get through book 2. So
yeah, I know.
But hopefully you'll like how Crazy Maids ties it up. So yeah.
Chop chop, Anita. Chop chop.
Exactly. So let's see. I think that's all I had for tonight. So if you guys had anything else.
Nope, I gotta go put a toddler to bed.
All right. I guess I'll let you do that. Thank you guys for joining me, and like, subscribe, check out my I've got a Anna Katharine Green playlist. I've got on my website, I've got Leavenworth Case as an ebook. Eventually that'll come out as an audiobook. And then but A Deed of Dreadful Note is available as of today in audiobook, ebook, and print formats. And today is the last day to get it signed by me at a discount. It'll go up to the normal price on my website after today. But today you can still get it at a slight discount off of my website. So, but like I said, the books are not here yet. So hold your breath. Hopefully they show up and they look beautiful. And then I'll get those out to everybody. So thank you so much. And I always call you Wizard because if I call you Andrew, then I think I'm your husband. So So thank you, Wizard and Anitha, for joining me tonight. Thank you, everybody in the live chat over there. If I missed anything, I'm sorry. I will catch you next time. Yeah, have a wonderful rest of your week.
Happy launch day. Congrats.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you so much.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.